Okay, great. Hi, my name's Karl Goshawk. I'm here with Honda at Rockingham Motor Speedway. We're going to do some brisk laps in the Honda CRZ just to show how stable the chassis is and see a bit of scenery of Rockingham.
Let's go. If you want to talk about yourself, feel free.
Okay. My background is motorsport. I've been racing since a kid in karts. I've raced Formula Ford and saloons over the years, and now find myself mainly instructing throughout the country.
And have you been in, when you say you've been racing, have they been in teams or have they been privateer racing?
You tend to race for teams, so someone has a car and you just drive it for them.
And what sort of cars and at which level have you been operating at?
Race mainly nationally throughout the country.
You've got
third gear, pulling away. That's fourth gear actually, sorry, out of a hairpin, it's pulling away. So a lot of torque in this car, so you don't need to work too hard, just drive it quickly.
Electric car a good run for the money there, isn't it? Testing out them skinny little tyres.
One tire's wide for the other. No confidence going past there.
Now that was a bit of a surprise. I think some of your colleagues, when we said we're coming out here at lunch break, decided to put a couple of racing drivers on the track for you. In the most unlikely of racing cars.
Yeah.
Just to frustrate us and hold us up. On the braking, isn't it? It's regenerative braking on
right.
the CRZ.
Exactly right. So even lifting off the throttle will generate power from the battery. It won't be audible on the video, but you can hear the regenerative braking or working, the electric gubbins. Yeah, exactly. Every time I ease off the throttle and the car starts to slow down, or when braking, it starts regenerating the power, then using the exit in the corner.
Although my driving skills are nowhere near as good as this man. Another tight hairpin here, going onto the outer wall of the track. Main grandstand straight. And ordinarily, Karl, how many, if you was open racing, how fast do you think you would be able to, and if you was racing a CRZ, what do you think you could hit on here if this was unrestricted?
Oh, top speed. On a tight, twisty circuit like Rockingham, you can still easily do 120, 130. Whereas today we're only doing 70. I'll keep it in fifth gear, so we're generating power all the time whilst I'm coasting down through here. Which I can then use for the twisty section. Since we're in a Honda, we won't mention that too much. So all the time we're driving slowly behind these cars, I can see the batteries getting charged up.
What was the last competitions you've been involved in then, Karl?
I've not done much racing for a while. I've had a few years off just due to money, so obviously we're in a bit of an economic downturn at the moment. Unfortunately, people aren't throwing money at cars going around the circuits on the racetrack.
And if for anyone who's thinking of driving, doing what you do as a living, how difficult is that to get into? Do you have to find your own sponsorship initially?
Yeah, it's quite tricky. Yeah, it's quite tricky finding cash. It's probably the hardest part of racing is actually finding the cash to fund the racing. It's only the least fun part of it. But when you do get it, I've been very lucky over the years with sponsors. Some really, really good sponsors who have helped me out, got everything I've raced. Unfortunately, we don't have the money, can't drive the car.
And how did you start? So you were driving karts from a nipper?
Well, I started at the age of 12, which is actually quite late. For one reason or another. But yeah, it's possible now to start racing at 6. So, but I don't know any 6-year-olds that can fund their own karting. So obviously the parents are willing to help you out there. And then it's just a case of you get the results and you're able to pick up the sponsors, choosing which direction you want to take your career, be it saloons or GTs or single seaters.
And you've been in the GT series, is that right? right? Is that where you decided the route that you would go?
Well, I've actually raced all sorts of starting in single seaters, as most people wanted to race at the highest level I could do. It's quite tough to get the money to do that. But then moved to saloons, racing tip-top front drive cars, so one step below touring cars in the Seat Championship. And then also from there, ended up racing some GT cars. So yeah, I've had a finger in most pies.
And is it easy to pick one that's best? What was your favourite series?
For me, I really enjoyed single seaters. I really love that. It's certainly the most fun car to drive.
And is that because of the sheer power to weight ratio and the exhilaration that brings, or?
Exactly, yeah, the racing was so close. The races are much shorter, but they're much more aggressive, so I really enjoyed that.
And what are the hopes, say, for the next, the news only yesterday was saying that the recession is going to last for at least another 3 years, so where does that leave you in terms of future racing?
Well, who knows, there's always things on the horizon. Just like to see what comes good.
So you test drive for Honda on events like this. What else do you do?
I work as a driver coach for some young up-and-coming drivers, as well as instructors at some of the racing schools. So there's always plenty of things to keep me out of trouble.
Yeah, we're going out for another, hopefully, final high-speed lap.
Yeah, clear lap.
Remember, we are limited to just 70 miles per hour, and I think we're slightly above that, but not too much. So about 73, I think I just spied there, but so I can't give you too many thrills on this video, but yeah, exactly. See, 70 through the chicane, it didn't come off. No lift off.
Time because I was only feathering the throttle at speed. We were charging up the battery, so the battery's getting quite full at the moment. It's only when I come to accelerate now on the exits of the corners that our battery power is being used. That's just giving us the torque into the 1.5 litre engine.
And that's the thing to be believed. This is only a 1.5 litre engine. It's not exactly a massive powerhouse. And it's amazing what this car can do for such a small output when it's in the right hands. And here's one of these Citroens. I think this is one of the eco testing cars, and these are going to try and get the most out of the fuel speed, fuel consumption. Distance, what did you say, about 300 metres?
Yeah, it was quite easy to overtake though. We were pretty much at 30 miles an hour there in fourth gear. Just cruised past.
And there was no changing down there, that was in fourth gear. So we managed to get past that Alfa Romeo Giulietta there. Demonstrated by Karl. So have you been in any particular championships? Have you been on podiums? And
yeah, I've raced here in Formula Ford and also in Seats.
Oh right.
So I've done a few laps around here.
were you also in the British Touring Car Championships then for the SEAT team, or?
No, in the SEAT Cooper Cup, so that was the feeder series to the British Touring Cars, racing at the same weekend as the Touring Car meeting.
Right.
So quite a big meeting.
And what's your favourite circuit, Carl?
I like all circuits. I like every circuit.
There's a racing driver for you. Anywhere where they can get their foot down. And what's the best car you've ever driven? And I know that we're in a Honda on behalf of Honda, but I presume it's not a Honda. That's no criticism of Honda, of course.
It's a Honda CRZ.
And really?
Yeah, Honda CRZ. Actually, to be fair today, it's probably the Honda Jazz. It's absolutely mega. Really, really good car.
So there you go, Honda Jazz. If you've got a chance to stick it on the track, do it. Now, if I'd have said that, people may well have laughed. But a racing driver saying that, a bit different. But take note. So what is it about the Jazz?
Just so stable. Such a stiff chassis, really stable in the corners. Great little car, ideal for the circuit.
Unfortunately though, most of those types of most Jazzes may never see even a percentage of that torsional rigidity within the bodywork and the dynamics be tested.
No, most cars will never get a chance to have their legs stretched.
So your top 3 tips for safe but higher speed driving car on the roads within the space speed limits.
Number 1 is definitely vision. Most people never look far enough ahead when they're driving. It sounds really basic, people will probably scoff, but it's so important when you're teaching someone to drive quickly is to get them looking far enough ahead and in the right place so that they're effectively planning much better. And I would say that that is top 1, 2 and 3 things you need to focus on when driving quickly, is looking in the right space.
Well, there you go. We've done it. We're now back at the Honda tent, having driven the CRZ round Rockingham race circuit within the 70 mph limit, but we've been maximising it on the bends. Proof that car, like the CRZ, to be handled very well. That's it for now.